Everyone, I'm here again with Simeon. Hello, Simeon.
Hello there.
And we are going to look at this video where it's feminist versus anti-feminist. And two things. One is, of course, the anti-feminist women. They don't want men to defend themselves. Only women are allowed to talk for men, which is to say that men don't get a voice. The other thing is the anti-feminists are just feminists as well. When you hear them speak, they have the exact same rhetoric as feminist. Okay, so go ahead, start any time, Simeon.
I'll point out,
Sure.
like the woman in the red dress right here, she is a major trad con.
Oh yeah.
And as the video goes on, you guys will see this. And by the way, we skipped the intro because it's pointless.
Yes,
Let's get
exactly.
straight to it.
Women have more privileges today than men.
We don't need to point out that this is not only 100% correct that women not only have more privileges, but men are being actively discriminated against.
Oh yeah.
But you guys will see what will happen.
Yeah, we're losing our rights. It's not just that they're gaining privileges, we're losing rights for sure.
Went forth on this one, thinking about the difference between more and different. I think women have distinctly different privileges than men have, but with this new feminist movement that is arising, more
Stop right here, Dick, Simon. She's doing the old different privileges. No, they have more rights than men do. It's that simple. They're not going to be able to mention one thing that men can do that women can't. That isn't biological or something out of our hands. Men have no rights that women don't. Well, go ahead.
You're just going to see a lot of this argument style.
Oh yeah.
And we'll point out something really interesting once we get to the male feminist side.
Yeah.
Women are placed and pedestalized above men in a lot of ways. There's affirmative action hiring and scholarships where women, sometimes even regardless of academic standing or achievement, are prioritized above men. But men also have different privileges that they get to access. I struggle to say more, but I think I do agree with the feminist movement now. There is more.
Okay, stop right there. Notice that she said there were privileges that men had and she offered nothing. She was definitely able to mention rights that women have, privileges over men. She wasn't able to name one thing on the other side. Okay.
You inherently have 10 times more privilege than a man. From the time they are little, girls are always like doted on and you're so pretty and cute. Very coddled. They're coddled, yeah. Right? As they should be, you know? We want that feminine, nurturing energy in them. You can kind of be a degenerate woman and have a hot body and be a millionaire on OnlyFans. Men don't have that privilege. Now, women don't have to like work to get a guy. They're just hot. And then guys come to them and spend their resources on them. A man has to prove himself. He has to build a body. He has to make money.
Stop right here. This also explains the bullshit wage gap. There isn't a wage gap, it's an earnings gap. And this is why. She's explaining it. So if I suspect they will bring up the wage gap in spite of her just explaining why that's the case. Okay, go ahead.
Influence. He has to become a protector, a provider. Women just have that naturally by just having a vagina.
That's why it's frustrating, because the feminist movement has been all about women acting like they don't have rights and acting like they have it pretty hard in the modern day world. I can't think of a single thing that I don't have that a guy has, or
that they only have. I would say the one thing I would say is the safety thing. That's the only thing that I would say is that women are disadvantaged from by nature. Women are not as physically strong. I mean, you're physically strong, but as physically
Simeon, what did I tell you?
Bullshit.
Yeah, go ahead.
complete fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, they'll bring up the biological aspect, but in practice, you'll see this in so many statistics. Not even bring up violent crime. Men are just more likely to die in myriad of ways. Workplace accidents, drug overdoses, alcoholism, suicide.
Yes.
In every country in the world,
Yeah.
women live longer than men.
Yes.
So, like, even to the point where I think in Lithuania, one of the Baltic countries, the lifespan gap between women and men is an entire decade. Women live an entire decade longer than men in some countries due to these social factors that overwrite any bullshit biological protection men being physically stronger gives them.
Oh yeah.
Also, going to the violent crime aspect, people don't attack women, people attack men.
Yep. Exactly.
Men are seen as targets, despite the bullshit strength that we apparently have.
Oh yeah. And what I wanted to point out too is that again, this is biological. This is out of our hands. It's not stripping them of their rights. It's not work quotas, for example. There, we're not forcing women to fist fight with men. you know. Go ahead.
Strong. It was great bicep. And men just are. And if you're walking down a dark alley as a woman, you're going to feel some type of way sometimes,
That's
right?
why we need guns.
Well, there you go.
I'm going to talk a little bit more about like the judicial system. When it comes to, let's say, domestic dispute, if a woman calls the police, they automatically show up, arrest the man. This the Duluth model, I think is how you pronounce it. And that's already in place. It's not necessarily like a right or anything, but it's certainly in all of the police departments. Is if feminism is all about equality, why would you automatically arrest a man when they arrest him?
Because feminism isn't about equality.
Exactly.
It's about male hatred and getting rid of men.
That's right. And
It's
again,
never been about equality.
this isn't about biology again, right? This is an actual stripping men of rights. It's actual discrimination. Oh, go ahead, Dixon. You were going to say something?
It's in the newspaper automatically. The fact that a woman can say Jane Doe and she doesn't have to put her name out there, what skin in the game is there?
And there's so many instances of that. I know men personally who have had domestic violence within the relationship with children involved, unfortunately. And the woman attacked the man in front of the child, and he's still, I know 2 instances personally, and he's still fighting to get the child back. That's from the Me Too movement. Congratulations. You guys got that.
It kind of invalidates the women who do come forward and who have faced rape and sexual
Stop
assault
right
and all
here.
of that.
Simeon, this is another thing too. It's like, rather than they shouldn't be bringing up the invalidating women at all. It has, if they're anti-feminist, then they shouldn't be bringing this up at all. This is what I say. These women are feminists. They want to still have these advantages legally, you know.
And it kind of turned into a Twitter hashtag.
That's correct.
Where women were like, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to join. Like, this seems fun. Like,
For clout.
it's not
For
fun.
clout.
I think it's a mixed bag. I don't think the Me Too movement was inherently harmful. It's the Me Too movement when
Right.
you couple it with something.
Stuff right here. Yeah, it is harmful. Everyone listening, all you guys listening, it was constructed to avoid the legal system. The legal system works perfectly fine for women. These women actually got through talking, saying how biased the legal system is towards women and against men. So for her to come around and say this, to say that, you know, it's a legitimate, avoiding the actual legal system is legitimate, shows you that these women are feminist. They aren't anti-feminist. They are feminist. Period. Thanks.
And to add on to that, like, these feminists, not specifically these people, feminists in general, have come up with this bullshit narrative that the legal system is like rigged against women and against like accusers of rape by trumping up bullshit statistics.
Yeah.
about, oh, these amount of cases don't go to trial. And the goal of the Me Too movement is just a modern day lynching. Like,
Well put.
Like-
Well put. A very
Well-
accurate comparison.
because back in the day, like back in like the Jim Crow era in the United States, like any woman, especially, it was more racialized back then, of
Yeah,
course, with like
course.
white women pointing at black men saying, "This nigger over there raped me." And a whole bunch of basically their orbiters in a way
Yes.
would go up and like string every black man they could find up on a rope and hang them. And the whole Me Too movement is basically an online version of that to ruin the reputation of any man that is accused of these actions.
Exactly. I mean, after all, a lot of times they know the man can't get jailed because no crime has really been had or done. So what they do is they use it to get him fired. So the man does get punished. It's just that legal system doesn't get involved at all, you know. So he doesn't get his day in court. He has no way to defend himself.
And I'll bring this up. Maybe it has, and I just haven't been made aware of it, but I'm surprised that the Me Too movement has not led to real life murders and attacks of men who have been accused. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet.
Oh, it has. It has.
For real?
Oh yeah, yeah. I can't come off with the examples right off the bat, but this is something we probably should have been prepared with. But the Pro Male Collective does have examples of that.
Thank you for letting me know. Again, I was not made aware of this because
I don't want to
media.
go into it because I'm going to get the facts wrong, just going by my memory. So I'll leave it at that.
Believe all women. That's when it
Yes,
becomes
yeah.
And the
inherently harmful.
victimization
It
of women
encouraged
who aren't
people.
really victims.
The prompt is, do women have more privileges? We have privileges simply by virtue of being women. We have privileges with affirmative action. We have privileges in family court, and we have privileges as far as being believed and forgiven. It's something that should be acknowledged.
That's correct. Can I have the disagreeer step forward?
I appreciated the distinction of more versus different privileges. You can't just use a broad brush.
About this person right here, Mason. Mason right here is a trans man.
Yeah, I didn't know that at first. He really does pass well.
And the fact that Mason was born as a female and spent most of his life as a woman will become very apparent as this video goes on.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
And paint the entire debate and say, all right, well, this is men have more than women. That's it. Like women must inherently then have no privileges. That's not how it works. And that's where we start to get into the idea of like intersectionality, where another woman who had a different experience, if it was a trans woman, if it was a woman of color, if it was
But
a
I
woman
don't
who
think
was
we're including trans women into
It's
feminism.
not
When I-
right here, Simeon. Notice, like you said, the trad-con women, they do not want trans women in their spaces. This is a very big issue. What she's talking about has nothing to do with men's rights, by the way. You know, but it's important to her. Well, I shouldn't say that. It shows you that men turning to women gain privileges that women do, and these women are against that. So I guess in that way, it is something to do with us guys. But notice they're showing their hand. They're showing you that women are very privileged, because if they weren't, then they wouldn't care about men taking on the female identity, would they?
I'm just silently, or maybe not so silently, chuckling because one of these women will say something about the whole trans woman debate that will show the true colors
Yes,
of these trad-con women later on.
you're right.
I can't wait to point this out.
Good.
I will hold my tongue for now.
Okay.
At all.
Think that trans women should not be a part of the feminist movement because a man, just because they, wake up and feel like they can be a woman one day, could come in and then suddenly know what it's like to have a period or know what it's like.
Sorry, Simeon. I just missed that. Did she say she doesn't think a trans man should be part of the feminist movement?
She doesn't think a trans woman should be a part of the feminist movement.
That's interesting considering she's an anti-feminist, so why would she care? Right. Okay, go ahead. Sorry to stop you.
I really can't wait to tear into this later on.
Go ahead.
Anything from men replacing women in sports to men replacing.
Fuck it.
Go
She
ahead.
said it right now. Fuck it. Literally great replacement theory. The same fucking theory white nationalists
Yes.
pointing out about, black and brown people. And let me point this out. A lot of this is based on misandry as well. Because you, City Crusher, probably remember just as well as me back in the mid 2010s when the whole refugee crisis was going on.
Yeah.
With like loads of people moving from the Middle East to Europe. A lot of the main arguments the whole right-wing anti-immigrant people stated was a lot of these people were young men.
Yes. They
They
want young
not
men, and their skin color really doesn't matter. They're just extra men that they don't want around.
And their whole point was that they thought these young men should be fighting and dying.
Yes.
And these whole bullshit civil wars that were going on in the Middle East. And just fueled this whole white nationalist, we are being replaced rhetoric.
Yeah. Well, they're both hate movements, right? So it's the exact same feeling. Guys listening, I know you don't want to hear this, but women see us the way that white nationalists see dark-skinned men. It's just the way it is. We're the other to them. They won't admit it, but here this woman is admitting it, especially since these men aren't replacing women. They're simply competing with them and defeating them. That's what she really has an issue with. Born women will not be able to win any awards again if there's enough trans women involved in sports. It's that simple.
Women on podcasts during Women's Month and when we're talking about women's health, or you've even got biological men who think they're women going to the White House speaking on behalf of all women.
Oh, by the way, too, Simeon, I just want to point out that Kylie here, I wanted to throw away this stupid idea of guys saying feminists are fat and ugly. Kylie here is the strongest feminist here, and she's the prettiest one. She's the most attractive of all of them. Just letting people know. Go ahead.
Yeah, that whole argument of feminists being fat and ugly,
Yeah.
it's just not only ad hominem in a way, but it's just moot. Like anyone who has real life experience talking to people who identify as feminists, or even just women in general, a lot of these women aren't ugly, even if they were. It doesn't matter because their voices are being heard way more than men's voices are.
Yeah, exactly. But I think what it is, guys like to try and put the idea that, she's just jealous because she can't get a man. That's not true. That Kylie girl can get any man she wants. It just shows you that they're hostile to men, period. Yeah.
Because you've lived in both experiences, at least socially. I'm curious, when you transitioned to male and people started perceiving you as male, like most people did today, what privileges changed for you, or what did you see enter your life that you didn't have before?
Yeah, and that's
Simeon. This is important too. I want to point out to everyone listening, she asked a very good question. Again, Mason won't be able to mention one thing. One thing. You won't be able to mention one case where a man has rights that women don't. Okay, go ahead.
A lot of my my beliefs in feminism do lie is because being out into the world as a gay woman was the way I was seen. Men treated me definitely not nearly as well as they did. I was bullied in school. I had people call me slurs, and it seemed like it was because I was threatening to like the male structure that we are in, where it's like male and female. Because I was a female who liked females, I was somehow infringing on that, and so
I
they didn't
call
like me.
bullshit. Sorry, Simeon, I call bullshit about what he just said. There's no way men treated him better now that he's a man. No way. And they weren't threatened by him as a woman shagging other women. Sorry, that's just not the way it works. Okay, go ahead.
And not only that,
Yes?
gay and queer men have always had it way worse than women have.
Oh, way worse. Like you said, I think we mentioned in the past before that I don't recall any lesbian being beaten up for being a lesbian, whereas gay men definitely were, and still are, no doubt.
And I'm willing to bet that before Mason transitioned and when he identified as a gay woman, that more women were mean to him than men were.
Yeah, exactly.
Naturally, when you socially transition and are perceived by the world in a different way. When I transitioned from being perceived as female to the world to just pretty much passing or blending full time as male, was that I got a lot more respect from other men. People listened to me and took me seriously in a social passing setting. People aren't going to harass.
This is what I'm talking about. That is not a right or a privilege. Every trans man that gets this question asked, that's the only thing he brings up. He tries to say people listen more to him now or respect him now. But we all know that listen and believe works because people actually listen to women, not men. So that's a bold-faced lie. But also the fact that he can't come up with anything concrete is completely insulting the man. You know, if you have nothing, you should shut up. Go ahead.
And frankly,
Yeah.
I'll continue on for a little bit. Frankly, I think I mentioned this before. No, that was in a previous recording. We tried recording this before, and it didn't end up working out.
Sure.
But it feels like Mason here was probably very insecure living as a woman and interpreted his interactions with other people through his insecurities, and through transitioning, he became more confident, and thus his perception of his interactions became viewed differently.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
So, of course, living more confidently will make him think that, oh, people are taking me more seriously now.
Yeah, he might be more outgoing as a man. That's true.
Which is just a benefit I never thought about.
With caveat, actually. So I say that yes, there are some privileges that women have that men don't. But also there's privileges that men have that women don't. I don't think women are more privileged in our society because I could get a woman pregnant and I could just run away.
They can get you
Well,
for
they
a
can
child.
get you for
Bullshit.
Yeah, bullshit. He just told, look, all feminists are bold-faced liars. He knows he just told a lie. There's no way he knows child support is there. He knows men can't just get up and walk away. The few times when you do see a single mom is because she wanted the man out. That's it. She booted him away. She wasn't interested in him. But if this woman or any of these women want to put child support on a man, she's got him. So he knows he's lying.
And this is personally relevant to me because I grew up with my mom getting child support payments after my parents split up when I was younger.
Ah.
So this is a very personal topic to me, which is why I immediately just called this person out, because literal bullshit. You can't just walk away from a child. Like, you can literally go to fucking jail if you miss a child support payment.
Exactly. Well,
or have your taxes
go
going
ahead.
in.
Go ahead, Dixon.
Sorry.
I didn't.
Just wanted to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ben. You were saying?
Oh, I was just saying, I better correct myself. A parent can walk away. The woman can walk away. At least up here in Canada, it's legal for a woman who doesn't want her child to put him up for adoption, him or her, and she doesn't have to pay anything. So women can walk away up here. Is it true with you in the States as well?
Yes, and funny enough, a lot of tradcon types who are anti-abortion will use adoption as an argument against abortion over here.
Oh yeah.
Like a woman, and even still in a lot of states, abortion is legal. Women have multiple options of walking away. They can just straight up terminate the pregnancy, or they can just put them up for adoption.
Exactly. So I mean, there's the double standard is there. So anyway, this woman's going to correct him anyway.
Which they
Wait, are you
do.
saying she can't run
You
away?
go to jail.
Are you saying you
They
can't,
could
she
take
can't
your
run away
money.
from the pregnancy?
But you could actually
yes.
physically leave.
Leave.
I
I
know
can
what you're
physically
saying.
leave. At the end of the day, like, I don't see women having more privileges than men because we don't have the same. There's no way to objectively measure it.
Well, and in the scenario that you pointed out, I mean, if a woman was
Wait just a
pregnant,
minute, Dixon. I disagree with him there, Simeon. That there's no objective way. There's a very objective. You look at all the rights that men have and women have and compare them. You can easily object it. He's saying that to derail. He doesn't want to admit what's obvious. Yeah. Continue, sir, please.
most
In some
parts
states,
of the country,
yes. In some states,
That's
yeah.
that's a
absolutely
major
true as well.
disadvantage.
You can't get an
Corner case.
abortion, but children can go get a gender change at 12 with a
Feels
parent
like you're
at
very
15
fixated on that.
without consent.
That's not
It
true.
feels like you're very
as
fixated
someone who
on
went-
that.
I know the laws as well.
I went through this.
I know, in some states you can, and in Thailand you can go at 16 and get your everything cut off.
Guys, it's less than 5%.
I know.
I know.
It
It's such a
doesn't
small.
matter.
It's such a small
doesn't
subset
matter.
of the
But
But you
population.
can't. But you can't say that about. It does matter though. When you have a child, you're not a
That's
parent
between
yet.
the parent and the child.
Can I ask you a question though, or ask the group a question? There's more world leaders who are male, and typically I think
Good, that's a
leadership.
good thing.
I know it's
Well, he
weird
was
coming
talking
from
to
me,
me.
but I do want to know. It doesn't bum you out that it's less likely for a woman to become president?
I don't feel bummed out because I know that if I want to pursue something that I want to do, I have every capability to do it in this country.
I don't feel bummed out.
Stop,
Women
stop
should not.
here, Simeon. For our, that's a terrible question from him because, like she pointed out, Kylie or Kaylee, however you say her name, that's just a question that, like, say, women don't need to gain status to be accepted by society. So of course, there's fewer women in top positions. They don't have to claw their way up there. At least there's no motivation to do that, or a lot less. And what I mentioned before, like your country, Sarah Palin, she was the governess of her country, I'm going to say country, of Alaska, her state. And I think she just got bored with it and she quit halfway through. She didn't even finish out her term. Because there's nothing there. No one's going to give women a hard time if they quit something,
Yeah, and also any New Zealanders in the comments correct me on this, but I think not too long ago the Prime Minister of New Zealand, or I think a party leader, or I know she was in a high position, but I think she legit just dipped from her position because she didn't want to deal with it anymore. She was just too stressed out by it, and she just decided to quit.
Oh yeah, men don't have. I can't say that we don't have the same option, but there's a lot more consequences for a man to dropping his status. Men fight tooth and nail for status. So I mean, the motivation's there.
Of extreme leadership like presidents, et cetera, because we're too emotional.
I'm feeling a lot of
Emotional
emotion.
No, no, you're gonna have a lot to say this, but it's not because of emotion. It's because women are inherently anti-male.
Yes, exactly. Because as you can see, like in these countries like Sweden, especially Scotland, the women get up there and they turn on the men. They make anti-male laws. Like I think it's in Britain, period, they have no staring laws in the transit, and it's strictly for men to not look at women. I mean, that's what they do. I find that a man if he's an authority of a country, he looks for other groups of men to be the bad guys. The women just choose their own countrymen, and and you could see it happening as we speak around the world.
I remember a video you made I think it was last night or just yesterday, where you talked about a woman who, not a woman, but a little girl who was pretty much a part of her terrorist group, being given a light punishment compared to other boys around the same age or even younger who are part of terrorist groups as well. I think it's a recent video from you where you talked about that. Not to mention, Scotland's completely fucked.
Oh yeah, it's officially a feminist country. They're screwed.
Like Mr. Pink and Yellow did a video about this where they're literally going to charge men with crimes just for talking about sex loudly, which is something men don't really do. That's more of a woman thing they do. It's like openly, explicitly talk about sex.
Yeah, it's policing men's voices. It's we really are niggers, all of us now.
Men can be impulsive.
I'm not saying that men can't be emotional.
Like we had a
Men are
president,
more
we had a
logical.
president who would literally just
And now
go
we
on
have a
Twitter
president whose
every
brain
day,
doesn't
every
work.
second.
Wait, 1% so she can hear it.
To be logical and to be sound is not something defined by gender. It's just something defined by your own psychology.
The left and right brain, it
That's just
actually
false.
is though. It's not false. It's not
Come on,
false.
man.
It
Come
is
on.
not
Really?
false.
I know your question about leadership, I think, is a very poignant question, because a lot of people are asking that. Why don't we see more female presidents? Why don't we see more female CEOs or Fortune 500 companies? And again, it goes back to those gender differences. There will be women who will be exceptions to the generalized rule of what it means to be feminine, and those women you will see succeed in extreme leadership. But we should also discuss what the conditions of extreme leadership are. We're talking 80-hour work weeks, subscribing yourself to your career and nothing else. And children. Psychologically and biologically, women tend to lean in the direction of not making those choices for themselves, while men are highly competitive, they are highly analytical, systematic, they're willing to put in that time.
Because they have to.
Yeah.
They legit have to gain status, to be respected. Because low status men are generally disrespected by society. They're generally looked at as worthless. Like another recent video about you made, City Crusher, about men's suicide.
Yeah.
Like the main motivators for a lot of men's suicide is like feeling like useless or worthless because of this pressure, mainly from women, to be successful.
Exactly. No, in the article, they even mentioned how, a married man, his wife starts earning more than him. The divorce rate soars up 50%, and the sex gets turned off. I mean, it's so obvious the woman is selecting the man for his status and his income, and so that's why men struggle so hard, tooth and nail, to gain status and keep it. So that's the motivation why, like she says, you have to put your whole life into this, into your career to gain status. And women don't have to do that.
And take extreme measures to gain career status. Exactly.
But in an egalitarian society, it's about having that choice and make that decision. And
Yes,
that's what feminism
but we
is about.
do,
It's
but
about
we already
having-
have that choice.
We
do
do.
have
If
that
I want to
choice.
go
But
own my own
it's
company, I
being
can.
restricted.
Like I said in the beginning, we've all agreed that the beginning of feminism was going in the right
Humanizing
direction.
women,
It
right.
was
So
humanizing
stop. Look,
women.
this what I'm talking about right here. See, the feminists in the past was good. That's what they're always saying, because they don't want to. That's a real exposure. If these women were true anti-feminist, they would willingly say that feminism was garbage from the beginning, which it was. It was always a hate movement. So the fact that she's trying to say feminism was legitimate in the past is because she is a feminist. What it is, it's just that now it's gotten to the point that the hostility just can't be hidden anymore. And also, these trad women want a man to leech off of. And feminism attacks men's ability to gain status. So they're taking away from these women's choices amongst men, selection. That's what their motivation is. You know, that's why they pretend they be on men's side. Go ahead. Continue.
Equal to men. It was giving us the same opportunities so that we can go vote, so that I can go get a job, so that I can drive a car. Like,
She can
there's
run for
other
president if she
countries
wants.
that I know that we weren't talking about other countries, but if you want to talk about feminism, go protect the women who get beat up for driving a car in other countries.
That doesn't really happen.
No, it doesn't. Exactly. Matter of fact, I have one video that's quite old already where they had women wanting to wear the veil on their own. No man was pressuring them. They liked it. It's the old male gaze. They don't like low-class men looking at them, so they were purposely wearing the veil to say, you low-status losers, eyes off, right? And just to push it, there was another video I had there where Chinese women were actually covering their bare legs with like a fake hair to gross the guys off. Oh, right. Just to say, you can't look at these. So, I mean, I'm losing my train of thought, but the point is that these other countries, these Middle East countries that everyone always goes to, they are not any more misogynistic than any other part of the world. None of them are. You know?
And then Islam, especially in these countries that follow Islam as their main religion, their main ideology of running things, like the whole motivation for these super conservative laws is misandry and distrust of men.
Yes, exactly.
Like the whole reason for like the veils and burqas, again, as you point out, so men won't want to look at women. The whole reason for the gender segregation in Saudi Arabia is so men and their eyes won't be pressured to go after women.
Yeah, exactly. It's the old harem business, right? They've got the eunuchs guarding, you know. All you low status men keep away. Some girl might get banged by some guy. The worst tragedy in the world. Yeah.
Men are falling behind in society.
Oh, stop right here. We're going to correct them right off the bat. Men aren't falling behind. They're being discriminated against. That's what's going on. And they'll always, matter of fact, these anti-feminists, were what they complain. I'm sorry, I'm screwing up. But if these anti-feminists really were anti-feminist, that's what they would say. So, but they're not going to say that, I don't think.
I just think, we have amazing men here today. It's an honor
thank
to
you.
be on this
You
panel
really
with you
know.
to see this masculine energy. However, I know that men are not able to be men anymore because of the feminist, modern feminist propaganda. I coach men in my practice, and they tell me, like, I don't even know what I can do on a date anymore. Can I ask a woman out? Am I going to get in trouble for this now? Like, I really like her. I kind of want to put my hand around her waist, but maybe that's going to, I'm going to be all over social media, this kind of thing. And I think men don't have the balls anymore to just stand up and be a man, be dangerous.
Hey, Simeon, you know what you're going to say to this. Go ahead.
It's like they just want, she just wants men to fit this in their perfect little box of men being stereotypically manly. Like a lot of these trad con types, even male trad cons legitimately care about men if they don't fit the type of lifestyle that they want.
Yeah. The same old gender roles. All these women who want men in the standard gender role. That's why men take these gender roles, by the way. It's because that's what's demanded of them. Exactly. And it's hurtful because notice she didn't care that she mentioned that there were consequences for men hitting on women now. And she basically said, no, I want men to be brave. And if they face consequences, who cares about them? Just as long as they go for it. That's what she thinks. That's the lack of self-regard they want men to have for themselves.
Be fierce.
I want to respond to a lot of what you said.
Please.
Does anybody else?
You make a really interesting point. However, I feel like a lot of the reasons why men can't actively express masculinity in a positive way is because of the patriarchal structures that we have. Part of where I'm coming from with this is I'm trans.
Hold
I was
on,
born.
stop right here. The patriarchal structure is not getting men thrown in jail for hitting on a woman. This is feminist. This is feminism in action, and this guy knows it. Mason knows it. So of course he's going to try and project it onto men. This is the tremendous gaslighting we have to hear. Like there's no one in this panel that has men's backs or men's interest. No one is speaking for us. Anyway, go ahead.
Now I present as male. I came out socially and medically transitioned at 18.
Okay.
The feminist movement is what helped me feel empowered enough to be who I am and
Okay.
be a man.
And no disrespect to your process. I know it's a very strenuous thing that you go through, but I see a woman, so I feel
Stop
feminine.
right here. She doesn't see a woman because Mason passes. There's no way anyone's going to mistake him for a woman. If he goes into a women's washroom, women are going to kick him out or get him kicked out. And this is why I do say he, because he does pass. The testosterone has done its job. It's converted him into a man physically, and he's going to be treated as such. No one's going to look at them and just have, oh, you look like a man, but I can tell you're a woman. No, this guy doesn't have any more rights anymore. That's why I've seen a lot of trans men, especially, bring out on the trans man card when consequences to being a man come down the chute, right? Exactly. And also, of course, the feminist movement backed him up because he was a she. So they're going to support a woman. It's all right. So that's why they're backing up. It's not because they're pro-male. Jeez.
Like, imagine if Mason was born as a male and wanted to transition to being a woman. The feminist movement would not have backed Mason up at all. In fact, the feminist movement would have totally rebuked him, would have totally really tried so hard to isolate and alienate Mason if Mason was an MTF rather than an FM.
Because look, there's two things going on. There's the intersectional feminists see Mason as a good attack dog, but they don't like him anymore. It's a man. He looks like a man now. And the TERFs just outright say, I hate your guts because you look like a man now. They might give him some food, but they don't like him. Neither group actually likes the trans people, whether they're male or female. But they especially hate the trans women. They say, you're born a man, you stay that way. You're not going to become one of us. That's for sure. So, I mean, I've got a couple videos, older ones too, where trans men have admitted just what a bummer it is to be a man. So all these trans men here, like Mason, they're just out and out liars, you know.
From you.
That's all right. I
And
totally
so when you
respect
say
that.
you're a man, then it's like, I don't see that.
The way I think about it is more like about individual choice and individual freedom. And if I want to say that I have feminine energy and people be
I just want to add one last thing.
Sure.
It's just a funny little point. The fact that Janelle, that's her name, the woman in red, she was like, oh, there's so much masculine energy here. And then once Mason pointed out that he was a trans man, she immediately flipped and was like, I still see you as a woman.
Yeah, that's a
It's
lie.
a bold-faced lie.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel
The reason she says
Janelle,
that is she wants to also deny that the trans women are women. That's why she's saying it. Yeah.
exactly. And plus, I'm pretty sure she wants to fit in with her TradCon ideology. So,
Yeah.
if she acknowledged Mason as a man, it would have lost her favor with the TradCons she probably runs with.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be
Females
true.
stuff, then that's their problem. That's not my problem. And for me, that's what feminism is about. Is about giving people the choice to act in accordance with however the hell they want to.
But that's a
not
very
how
dangerous
feminism
society.
That's
to
not how
say.
feminism started, though. Yeah, we went from, wanting equal rights for women and equality for women, and now it's
Humanizing
kind of
women, right?
humanizing women,
Yes.
making it to where I think we
Yes,
all
stop it
agree,
right there.
women.
So she is saying that in the past women weren't treated as human beings. Total lie. Total lie. I'm told you, she is actually spews the strongest feminist rhetoric in this whole group. And she's labeled as an anti-feminist. It's disgusting. Yeah.
And it's funny how they talk about the whole dehumanizing rhetoric when for generations and generations, and even now, young men, like teenage boys and really young men, have been used as cannon fodder for all these elites wars.
Yeah, exactly.
Like even now,
Yeah.
I think going with the whole Ukraine Russia stuff going on, both governments are pretty much throwing their young boys and men at each other to settle whatever ethnic feud they have.
Yeah, exactly. Because they've shown like young teenage boys and elderly men being conscripted over there. And meanwhile, they're able-bodied, fully mature women get to run off with their kids to other countries. So they see around, not only are they not even going near the fighting, they're actually leaving their own country, like rats leaving a sinking ship. So there's for her to say that women were ever dehumanized, please make me puke.
Now we're equal to men, and with like third and fourth wave feminism, especially fourth wave feminism, it's kind of turned into individuality, like you said.
It doesn't take a man to tell me how to be a man. It doesn't take a woman either. I can define myself as a man how I want. I don't need somebody like Andrew Tate to be like, well, you're not a man unless you do this. I also don't need a woman to come out and be like, you're not a real man if you don't do this. And it's the same with feminism.
But he is speaking for women, though.
Yeah.
By joining this movement, he's pretty much become a useful idiot for feminists.
Yeah, exactly. This guy he says, I don't need someone to tell me how to be a man, but he's got the entire look of the standard visual of a masculine man in his dress and his stance, the way he talks, everything, So I say, if these guys were so different, we'd see something different. I don't. They dress like men, they act like men, exactly how men are expected to behave and dress.
I'm not going to tell you how to be a woman. I don't think another woman should tell you how to be a woman either.
So what would you tell kids?
Yeah, like you have a daughter. Do
Yeah.
you really want to be guided by the ambiguous? Define yourself as however you want to define yourself. And for her mind to be molded and shaped by men who disrespect women, who turn themselves into men and then turn themselves back and say there's a lot of dissatisfaction when the root of the problem wasn't the gender, it was everything else.
Let's
slow down, though.
very
I
low
feel like
rates
at the
of
percentages.
transitioning, but that's
I looked at
neither.
percentages.
That's also a minority of the population.
feels like you're bundling a lot of ideas, which makes it hard to respond. But
Well, because there's so much data to support.
do you repeat what's the main question?
Do you want your daughter's mind to be formed and shaped by a society that tells her it's okay to be masculine and to be a man, and that she doesn't need a man, and that it's better off for her to be alone and put her career first and not have children.
I think it's more likely than not that she'll probably follow a more conventional path. If my daughter grows up and she wants to dress like a boy, like great. If she, for whatever reason, is experiencing gender dysphoria, like we would navigate that together. But that, to me, it doesn't scare me. And I would all the more want to live in a world.
Like that's
Oh, Simeon,
because
Simeon,
son,
notice how she's very focused on the daughter. She's not just talking with children. She does not like the idea of his daughter taking on, like, becoming Mason and losing her privilege. In that regard, what's her name again? I can't remember this woman's name.
Janelle?
Then yeah, Janelle actually is showing some kind of care for his daughter because she knows his daughter has privilege that she will lose, and rights she'll lose if she actually transitions into a man. You know.
Encourage him. I say you are to be, and I really don't care the backlash. You're supposed to be attracted to women. And
Isn't
I tell
that a lot
him,
of pressure?
and I tell no, and
And notice what she says about her son.
Sure.
Just trying to instill this value of, oh, you're supposed to spend your life pretty much groveling at the foot of women.
Yeah, exactly. That's the mother's love for you.
And also showing her true colors by being anti-gay towards men.
Yeah, exactly.
Because so many of these drag con types will go so hard against gay men, yet they have nothing to say about lesbians or bi women.
Exactly. Exactly. It's really about a man not being a good servant. That's it. You know.
Again, homophobia, and not just homophobia, but male sexuality has always been just tightly controlled by drag cons, feminists, pretty much everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like, if your sexuality is just a little bit outside of what these people want, and you're a man, you just get bitch smacked into by all these people.
Oh yeah.
I ask him,
What
who
if
are
he's not?
because life for transgender individuals, and my son's African American as well, is very freaking hard. I don't know if we can swear. I'm sorry.
You can.
It's very hard. Do you know this to be true?
Asking people or putting pressure on your son or putting
I
pressure
don't
on my daughter
pressure.
to not.
I just tell them.
Okay, but to not be their true self, if that's truly how they feel,
That's
it
not
feels
their
like
true
that
self.
would
No,
be.
they're
That's
not their true
that's
self.
this like
Thank you.
that's this way. It's
Thank you.
society has influenced everybody to
correct.
be
Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah. When you say I can identify and be whatever I want, if I want to say I'm Beyonce today, I can now just be Beyonce.
But do you
right?
actually believe that?
I do. I kind of.
Wait, can we talk about
genuinely
yeah,
feel
let's
it.
okay,
So
so
here's
here's about
the
men
other-
falling behind.
here's the other thing. If men are falling behind, is it because of feminism or is there socioeconomic factors that we're not looking at?
Well, how do we
Because,
define
well, no.
falling behind?
Again, men have not been falling behind. Men have always been discriminated against. And under feminism, it's been getting worse.
Oh
Because
yeah.
feminists are outwardly hostile towards men.
Yeah, they get control of the education system now. You know, that's what, boys have always been down marked by female teachers, especially. So they start hammering away at boys' ability to succeed in life when they're very small. So it just goes to show you just how vicious people are to anyone who's just male. Just being a small little boy doesn't even protect you from it.
And men truly have no allies in society. Because on one hand, you have feminists who are just straight up, at some points, calling for the eradication of men. For example, I mentioned this earlier in my interview with City Crusher, that Valerie Solana's girl
Yeah.
who wrote the Scum Manifesto. which is openly celebrated by even so-called moderate and liberal feminists.
Exactly. And this is what I'm saying. Like, and this, what was it? Kaylee said, feminism was good in the past. Right. So Solanus advocating for our deaths, that was good. That was a good thing. Right. So that's what I mean. If we had a true blue pro-male advocate for us, he would have brought that up and just cut her into pieces, verbally. So, I mean, that's why whoever does these videos will never have someone like that on. Right.
And on the other hand, you have people who are pretty much chameleons who say that they're pro-male but are either drag cons, again, looking to push their ideologies on men and will ruthlessly, sorry, I can't speak, attack any man who does not fit what they want to be in a man. Or you have people like Andrew Tate or these other red pill pickup type people who just scam men.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what do you see as falling behind?
What's falling behind? So people in America, not just men, everybody is getting poor. This has nothing to do with
Well, that's not
feminism.
true.
No,
That's a mental
Okay, stop it
state.
here.
No,
Look. He's
Mentality.
doing the old false equivalence.
Well, you can blame the president for that.
Okay,
And the
back to
other
the
thing
prompt.
is, what do you define as masculinity? It can be subjective.
Tell
from
us,
culture to
what do
culture.
you define
I think
masculinity?
masculinity is whatever you want it to be. It doesn't have to be this objective
How-
thing where it's like, oh, you're masculine, you're
How
not.
is
Like,
it? Can it?
so it could be different from our society to another society. And actually, in some countries, like men who don't provide for their families or are not the sole provider are not seen
But
as
are we
masculine.
talking about other countries, or are we talking about the
But
U.S.?
even,
right?
actually, even here, there are people who will say that's demasculating for a man to make less money than his wife.
I appreciate everything everyone's saying. I do want to talk about the prompt. When I heard the prompt and I heard that, I thought about men falling behind, I thought more like mental health, like suicide is more common
Oh, we're
with
gonna
men.
go here.
No,
Love
but it's
this one.
true. It, like,
Go ahead.
No, you go first.
Oh, I was going to say, we're going to go here. We're going to point out the obvious that men have hard. So the anti-feminist who's supposed to be on our side says that old chestnut about men suicide through the roof, like 4 times higher than women. Why are you bringing that up? Can you imagine that? That's someone I want on my side. With someone like her, with friends like her, who would need an enemy? I fear for her son. She talks about this guy's daughter. I fear for her son because you know what he's going to be slated for. Going to be a good little servant to some woman that she's never even met. Dang.
like men
But it's such
commit
a
suicide at higher
cop out.
rates.
Like, I'm not saying mental health isn't an issue, but it is an issue, and obviously a lot of men are experiencing a lot of pressure.
We heard like the term death of despair. Men are committing suicide more. Men are dying from alcohol-related illnesses more, and they're also dying from drug abuse and drug overdose more.
Correct.
And that's an increasing trend in society.
Yeah.
And then you
That's
see
wrong. It
educational
is
gaps.
No, there is no denying that. Like, young men are abandoning colleges at a rapid
Yeah, it's a
rate.
lot of pressure to be
Like, I know you're going to have a lot to say about the college point, but just want to point out how the discussion was about men literally dying due to their mental illnesses caused by, a lot of it caused by, again, the whole pressure to be viewed as useful and worth something to society, the pressure to be high status.
Yeah, exactly.
And notice how she pivots towards men, quote unquote, leaving colleges. And I'll let you carry.
Oh yeah, because they're not leaving
point.
college. They're being kicked out. There's been cases. Well, I mean, what's that? That Title IX is one where basically they give women in college carte blanche to accuse a man falsely and just get him kicked out. And it's a completely kangaroo court. So men work their way into college and spend money to get there, and then all of a sudden they're just kicked out and they're not reimbursed in any way, and they've lost those years of their lives. And I mean, that causes a man depression, and the fact that society doesn't clamp down on that, like you said, men have no allies. Like when that Title IX happens to a guy and the guy's parents know that he's innocent, they don't, I never hear them, like, I should say never, but I rarely hear them ever suing or gathering together up with other parents and saying, we want this changed. They don't do that. They just say, dust yourself off. They get angry and say, that's unfair because it happened to a guy I know personally or I personally care about. But I can't change the rules because all the guys I don't care about, I want these women to have that kind of power over them. But I'm getting a little off track. The point is, these guys, men get kicked out of it. The university's hostile to them, and they don't have the same safety net. Because as you know, like any of these young ladies, if they go to university and they rack up a big debt, that doesn't stop them from getting together with the guy. It doesn't mean they're not accepted in society. And a lot of these women will shack up with a guy, and the guy will end up paying off her debt as the bride price to have her around. Whereas men, they can't do that. We shack up, we rack up debt. No woman's going to be near us, and we've got to clean that mess up ourselves. So a lot of men get halfway through and they say, sorry, I can't see putting any more money into something that's not going to pay off. So that's what happens too. That's the leaving part in that case, So let's continue.
They're far lonelier than women are right now. And
Yeah, women are the
Can I finish my point? Sorry. I'm like, don't let me lose my train of thought. They're abandoning colleges. Women make up, they enroll in college at a 60% rate. Women are earning more than men nowadays, right? So,
yeah,
that is true. It's about enrollment. So are they having other jobs? Yeah, probably. But I'm saying like men are not going to these institutions. Why?
When you're saying lack of enrollment, there's more entrepreneurs in the entrepreneurial space than ever before in history. So I believe a lot of people are opting out of college as we had to pursue their venture. So that could be part of the reason why the enrollment has declined.
Can I just go back to a point that you said really quick?
Yeah,
where you talked about
Yeah.
like the mental health of men and how
Me?
the stigmatization of men addressing their mental health.
Yeah.
What system are we in that makes it so that men
It's
It's
patriarchy, actually. Go ahead.
and since he's the most radical feminist of the bunch, probably not close to that Kaylee chick. It seems to be more radical than Mason, but he's just gonna go straight to pretty much victim blaming.
Exactly.
The whole patriarchy
Yeah.
bullshit. And honestly, I don't feel like hearing it. Do you mind if I skip?
No, yeah, spit past it. We don't need to hear this horseshit.
Psychologists and economists, professors, all these people coming out saying that the actual psychology department is feminized. I know.
I'm
It's
processing what you're saying.
The psychology
It's weird,
department?
but the way that
See this little tidbit of
Yeah.
information here.
Exactly. It's filled up.
The
That's what I'm
mental-
saying. That's what we said about positions of authority. Therapy has become, if it was never really male friendly, but it's become worse. Why? Because it's filling up with women, and women don't care about men. They're hostile to men, so they're not going to be endeavoring to be helpful to a man's mental health. It's not going to be like that. Matter of fact, it's not just women flooding it, it's feminist women. So I mean, I have a video where a male psychologist actually admits how harmful it is that he's surrounded with women who are completely hostile to men. So you if you're a man with mental health problems, the last thing you want to do is go to a therapist now, because most likely you're going to have a hostile woman that's going to cause you even more mental distress.
And not even just that, like I saw this viral tweet from this therapist who straight up declared that she was no longer taking male patients because these male patients were pretty much grilling her on not how much, but how she can be helpful to them. Probably because of past bad experiences with therapy.
Yeah.
And this woman probably had her ego hurt by this and just decided to no longer take men.
And even then, that could have been a lie on her part. She might just hate men and say, I just don't want to deal with you, and I need to come up with an excuse. Because we hear that all the time. We see that all the time. You know, women make up stories. Go ahead. Sorry.
Process is for women. So women and men process information differently. Men are like this in their brain. Women are, it's all over. And like, what the hell does that mean?
Well, it's
It
left
means
brain, right
that
brain.
when you
I wish it was
process
that
like
simple.
men solve the problem before they can process the emotion.
Women are emotional.
react
My
on
wing
emotion.
woman. Yeah, that's it.
But so women have a tendency, not a tendency, they do better with talk therapy. That doesn't always work for men. Men do better when they are kind of working with a coach or somebody that's going to be like, this is what you have to do. And then come
Like
back
massive
to how you
action
do it.
That's why mentors
So-
work. That's why men need.
He had a so can we let
Yeah.
him finish his
So-
thought?
Okay,
The
fine.
same problems with the military, a lot of suicide rate. Even though there is therapy services, they're actually actively discouraged, and it's because of this masculine energy of the military. Because it is still, even to this day, a very ultra masculine institution, and there's these negative energies saying like, "Hey, no, you shouldn't like to talk." That's what these.
But that's
But-
toxic
Well, it's
masculinity.
interesting.
Yes, but it
That's
comes
not
from
patriarchy.
it comes from a
There's
place
a difference.
it comes from a place where it's like, oh, that's not what men do. Just suck it up and push on, and that's why a lot of these guys end up killing themselves.
I imagine you have a lot to say.
Oh, yeah. Well, this guy's admitting it. He's admitting because he's in the military. The military doesn't care about a man's health. It wants you to suck up your pain and keep going. You know, it doesn't want you to heal. I mean, their best bet is, from what I can see, the military's idea is that you take out two of the enemy and then die in the process. Then we don't have to deal with any of you guys. You know, but he's admitting it. And of course, then they'll call that patriarchal, even though it has women in the military now. You know, it's always going to be victim blaming. But the fact that this guy is part of the military and he's a feminist, it just shows you again that tradcons and feminists are the same people. By rights, these two should be polar opposite. They're not.
And notice how, again, the so-called anti-feminists are using feminist rhetoric. I think it was Janelle who said toxic masculinity.
Yes.
I
Exactly.
think it's either Janelle or one of the other anti-feminists, so-called anti-feminists, who just straight up said toxic masculinity, which is a feminist gaslight to attack men.
Yeah.
Again, these so-called anti-feminists are showing their true colors here.
What branch were you in? Can I ask?
I was in the army.
Okay. So you're an athlete, correct? And in the military, what is in the military that makes everything work within the military? It's a structure, right?
Yes, it's a structure.
It's a system, right? Who runs the military? Who is at the very top of the command?
Who's the commander in chief? The
Correct.
president of the United States.
But I'm making a point here. So there's one person at the very top. Even if you take the commander in chief away, there's your general, right? And there's lieutenant general, there's corporal, and I forget the, don't hate me, there's all those privates, etc. There's a system. One person is at the top of that system, and he has supporting members underneath him, all the way down to private. And that's what patriarchy was, quote, patriarchy was designed. It's a system of one person taking a leadership position, and they make decisions for the greater good, utilitarianism of all, meaning the family unit.
That's not really what
That-
patriarchy
And actually, that's
It
that's
is.
a
I
very-
looked
that's-
up the definition,
That's actually a very.
I literally
ideal-
looked it up yesterday.
Oh, Simeon,
I really
notice that none of these people can actually tell you what the patriarchy is, can they? Like he says, that's not the patriarchy, but he never says what because whenever a guy says well, I'm not in charge of anything. Then he says, oh, well, yeah, you're not a part of the patriarchy, but the patriarchy is there. It's like some kind of ghost that's affecting everything, you know. It's like Mr. Pink and Yellow said, it's everywhere, but it's nowhere, you know, sort of thing. It can't be
And
defined.
again, I'm making political comparisons, but this is legit just like the whole like Jewish question
Yes.
originated by National Socialists in 1930, now peddled by white nationalists today. This whole Jewish question of this group of people runs the world, makes all the rules, and this group of people are holding us down.
Yeah.
So we must attack this group of people.
Exactly. It's a perfect comparison. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. You're just swapping out the names. Instead of the Jewish, it's the average guy. You know, that's the only difference.
Also to respond because I feel like they've spoken 20%. Once they're done with their thought,
And also, notice how the women here keep speaking over the men, mainly because of their lack of respect for them,
Oh yeah.
which is ironically a huge feminist complaint that women seem to be disrespected by men. But as we see here, that's the opposite
Yeah, exactly.
going on.
When they say mansplained, what they really mean is a man corrects a woman and it embarrasses her. That's what mansplaining is. And but as you say, there is no mansplaining here. Even though they're talking, as you point out, the women are the ones that interrupt the men.
feel free to interrupt, but let them finish a sentence.
Okay, I want to talk. I'm gonna talk. I mean, I do think men are falling behind. I feel like the world is just changing in a way where men don't have like a natural place to fit in, or it's not as intuitive as it used to be. And I think men are.
This person's whole speech is, again, just denial and victim blaming of the discrimination going on.
Yeah,
Fuck
exactly.
this guy.
In a way, I would say Jordan Peterson's probably a more healthy role model for men than, say, an Andrew Tate. But men are going to.
Jordan Peterson's track on scum, and Andrew Tate, as I said earlier, is just a scammer.
Yeah.
Towards these more aggressive, masculinized traits and seeking out men that are trying to harness that for them.
Yeah. I thought you made a really great point that I totally agree with, where men are looking for these role models of how to embody masculinity because we are falling behind and a lot of people don't know how to act. What's really important and what I've seen, at least in my experience, like feminism bring up is the idea of like Justin Baldoni doing his talk about being man enough for your woman, being man enough to be emotional, being man enough to support children. That's the type of manliness and masculinity I think needs to be embodied so that men can catch up and feel like there's a place for them. That's something that.
So his idea of men falling behind is that they're not manly enough. They're not manly enough to basically have a woman leech off them and look after children. Right. So again, like you say, it's just more victim blaming. So they're falling behind because they're not fulfilling those roles anymore. Is that what he's saying? Like that's what he's saying. But if I asked him that, if someone was there to ask him that, I bet he couldn't just come out and admit it.
Again, all this is just telling men that their only roles in life is to serve other people. No,
Yeah.
to serve women. Like men's happiness, men's goals, it doesn't matter as long as they are serving women. That's all these people care about on both sides.
Perfectly said.
We need to focus on is making sure that people know how to embody masculinity in a way that's going to be beneficial for everyone.
Women should also be drafted into the military.
Oh, by the way, before we go any further, notice that's not put on women though. Women aren't saying, "Oh, you've got to be feminine in a way that help benefits everybody." Notice they never bring that up, right? Go ahead, Dick.
Like, not even drag cons
Yeah,
really talk about that, and they're the ones who mainly talk about femininity.
yeah.
Like, drag cons, when they talk about femininity, is about attracting a man to do stuff for them.
And the person voicing it here is a feminist and a former woman. So, I mean, that just goes to prove what's going on, to how people, there is no alternative for men.
If you're gonna vote, you might as well be drafted, baby. That's it.
Yeah, I believe rights come with responsibilities, and we are all responsible individuals. Granted, I'm glad we live in a society where we haven't had the draft since, I think, Vietnam.
50 years.
Yeah, Vietnam. I think
50
Vietnam.
years ago.
I do think that maybe we should relook at the draft and as other options, not just military service. So I was in the active duty military, and I was also in the National Guard, and I've fought wildfires, and I've done crowd control. I've done a lot of other things. If you want the same rights, you have to have the same.
Notice how when the idea of women being drafted is brought up, he brings up alternate roles for the draft.
Yeah.
That's nothing to do with military combat.
Of course. They don't want any real equality for women at all. Look, a woman's blood being shed in the battlefields, no different from a man's. I know they start trying to bring up the upper body strength or something silly like that, but the fact is, you're either worthy to be cannon fodder or you're not. And they're basically saying, sorry, women are above men. They're not worthy to be have their lives thrown away. That's what it is. But like I said, both these groups of people are traditionalist. And both these traditionalist groups are feminist in mindset. It's the same old.
Responsibilities, and I think that's just universal based on what you can do and your abilities.
This was a very difficult one for me to parse through because I remember when I was getting my birth certificate changed, and it was like, all right, time to register for selective service, and I was like, oh God, I have to make this decision now to register.
You don't have a choice.
I know.
I love what you said there. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he viewed it as a choice.
Yeah, exactly. He tried to make it out like he had a choice. He said, no, your choice was to either be a woman or a man. You chose being a man. So everything else is not a choice. Everything else comes along with that. This is why this Mason person disgusts me the most of all of them.
Is there a selective service system in Canada? Because for me, I remember when I first turned 18, I didn't sign up for it right away, but I kept getting reminders I think I kept getting phone calls, emails.
Yeah. Luckily for us, we don't have that here because I'm the last person you want in the military. My personality doesn't fit that whatsoever. So I mean, I'm glad we don't have that here. But I mean, you signing up for it, I mean, it's just to bring it back. In the end, people say, oh, we don't have the draft now, so it doesn't matter anymore, which really pisses me off because these feminists bring out the past all the time when they want to try to say something about women. Hey, women didn't have the vote in the past, right? Even though it was true that men didn't either. I won't go too far into that. But the point is, they bring up the past all the time. But then when men talk about the draft, they say, oh, that's not around anymore, so we don't have to talk about it anymore. But you do. You have to. It goes to show that women in the past had rights that men didn't. They didn't have to serve the military ever in any culture, in any part of history, in any country. So, I mean, that's where it goes for. But it's just that the hypocrisy of these people sickened me.
So I was like, all right, cool. Like I will go through with finishing all this legal stuff up and register. And I think, like you said, there's lots of other responsibilities that men and women of different abilities and different strengths could fulfill within selective service if we needed it.
Drafted, correct me if I'm wrong, would be going into war, would be physically going and doing
Not
the
true.
actual
A
combat.
lot of the draftees in Vietnam didn't go see combat; they did supportive roles.
Okay.
It's selective service, so you register to
Right.
be potentially needed to call for multiple different
Right.
But some of them are going.
Right. Right.
Some
So
of them, there was some
so
bad cases.
the part that I would disagree with would be putting women on the front lines. We are physically capable to do a lot. You know, there's different boundaries for women who go into the military who have to do boot
Stop
camp.
it here. See,
Then
she's showing her true colors here, right here, Simeon. She says, I don't want women on the front line because we are more important than you low-life men. That's what she's admitting to. Now she's going to try and talk about the upper body strength or shit. But you and I know that back like the First World War, they had these scrawny teenage boys that they were drafting, and they had almost zero upper body strength. So this is just an excuse for saying, no, don't do it to us. We're above that. That's what's going on here.
And expanding on that, this is a little bit off topic, but even people who are underage, like underage teenage boys, were signing up to fight in the war because of this societal pressure
Yeah.
that like fighting wars makes you a real man. Like boys as young as like 14, 15 were trying to sign up to the military to fight in the First World War.
Yeah, it's a way for them to gain status because in their minds they would become war heroes and then be respected by society. They said that's something the girls never had to worry about and still don't. Yeah.
work women as hard as they can, but they're not going to work as hard as men are.
I actually got accepted into the Air Force, which would have been like very nice because I would have had a little desk job. But unfortunately, I was waiting for a job, so I went to Army. So I went through boot camp, and it was hell, and it really messed my back up even more than it already was. Our rationale skills and our logical thinking is not conducive to be able to be on the front grounds, to be able to make, oh my gosh, if I step here, this is going to blow up. Can I like? We just think too emotionally, and that's why when we talked about leadership, it's the same thing. Being in those positions where like split-second decision could make or break, I don't think women have it in them to do that.
She doesn't actually believe this.
No.
She's trying to save face.
Yeah.
I think all this is just long form for I don't want to potentially die in a war. You men go do that shit. I don't want to.
Yeah. And leadership is not what they're trying to make it out to be anyway. Leadership is a lot of pressure to it. There's a lot of pressure to succeed. There's a lot of consequences, especially military leadership. And so they don't want to deal with that. That's stress. And who needs that? They don't need any of this to get by. So they don't want to join. There's zero to gain for a woman to enter the military, other than maybe get in during peacetime and boss men around, maybe, you know. But, you know, someone could motivate them. They should give them a gun and say, look, you hate men, right? Now you get to shoot them. You get to be Valerie Solanas like you always wanted to be. Go to it.
I don't think it's fair to men to be. I wouldn't, if I was a man, I wouldn't want to be next to a woman and want to be carried out if I needed to be, if my life was depending on it.
I think it seems like a lot of the same discussions keep happening with these prompts, which is back and forth of how much is it nature, how much is it nurture, how much are there like intrinsic biological differences between men and women, and how much does that dictate our behavior and our physiology, our biology, versus how much of that is through social learning. So how much it's our culture in terms of,
Societal
let's say, like
programming
on a
versus-
scale of 1 to 10, how high is your sex drive?
Very high. I'm a sex.
I'm not asking
Oh,
you
I thought
personally.
you were. I'm like,
I wasn't asking you.
Sorry.
If you ask everyone that,
Yeah.
you'll see on average differences between men and women. And because of that, I don't think we should dictate whether or not someone is drafted into the military. Because ultimately, I think individuals should have the freedom to make certain choices.
It's a draft, though.
Sure.
and
Yeah.
they can go in if they
And what you're saying, you don't think people should be treated differently because there can be metrics that fall outside of the data. Of course, yeah. So there is differential treatment, but I would say that it's completely reasonable to do that because not only are we focusing on the differential treatment, but we're focusing on outcome. So if I'm expecting somebody to go into combat, which is the reason I didn't walk forward, you should also expect that person on an individual basis to be able to meet the exact same standard as every other man that they are going to be fighting with.
So the
Now-
military has made a change on that, by the way.
Yes,
they
they
have a
have.
new individual test that's based on what job you're doing. If you're doing more combat
Sure.
roles, yes, you have to be strong.
Oh, by the way, Simeon, right here,
That's why.
mentioning when the military wanted more women in, which they didn't need any more women, but they wanted women in it, they actually lowered the standards, the physical standards, so that women would pass. So men want women around, and they don't care if it endangers anyone or not. They just want women around. You know, there's something wrong with the male psychology. I'll tell you that now.
I think it's just male sexuality. They figuring into everything that men just naturally want women around because the typical man is sexually attracted to women and wants like mate with them. Speaking like biological
I wouldn't,
terms.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's all sexual because men will stay in sexless marriages. So they know they're not getting any, or they have to struggle to get some. So having the woman around, I don't think is really sexual in that regard. So I just think men pander to women who they know they're never going to get anything out of. Like when a strange man jumps in front of a bullet for a strange woman, he knows he's not going to get to know this woman or marry her or anything like that, or get anything out of it. So the psychology, the pandering psychology, I don't think we can really connect it to just wanting to bang her, sort of thing.
That's a fair point. More than fair, actually. Thinking about it is weird. That has to be explored more.
Yes,
Things
I
are
agree.
changing, and like I said, I'm not for the draft at all. Really, I think it's
Agreed.
a really bad thing. But if
Yeah.
it was to happen, like it should be across all boards. Everybody gets treated equal.
If I could choose the possibility of women being drafted or not, I would choose that they're not. I don't want my
Anyone.
daughter to be drafted.
I think if you draft, at least account for the differences, please.
Female sex workers should be more respected.
Okay, stop. Just
Respected
wait
how?
here. Go ahead, Simeon. You were going to say?
That's all I wanted to say. Respected how?
Well, the other thing is, the title of this video is "Are Men Falling Behind?" This question has nothing to do with that whatsoever. So again, this is putting focus on women, because we know when they say sex workers, they mean women. So it has nothing to do with men falling behind, but we'll see what they have to say.
Ton about this topic, but I do think I subscribe to the idea that legitimizing sex work reduces the safety risks associated with that profession. It's a very old profession. It's been around for a while.
It's going to continue to be around.
I don't, I think it's also, there's tools out there like OnlyFans that I think has put a lot of the power in the hands of the creators. A lot of people.
There isn't really much or not really any risk at all when it comes to sex work or just prostitution, because like other than legal issues, like especially if a woman's protected by a pimp or something, there's very little chances of anything bad happening to the prostitute.
Yeah, exactly. And they're not talking about harm, though. The question was, are they to be respected? But the truth is, a lot of guys will go to a prostitute because he might have a strange kink that he doesn't want to ask his wife to do or his girlfriend. So, I mean, the whole point of paying a woman outright, a sex worker, is to engage in sex act, which might not normally be respectful, you know. So it's just another way of preventing men from. It's so hateful because they actually support women selling their sex, but they're against men enjoying it or getting anything out of it. So it's this really this impossible thing they want. They just want men not to get anything out of it, you know.
Again, I think you mentioned to me that I think Sweden
Yeah.
criminalizes men for soliciting prostitutes, but prostitution on the women's end is legal.
Yes, exactly. That's another right that men don't have. And again, they haven't come up with one that women don't. But that's it. Like in Sweden, they're a feminist country. And so a John will have sex with a prostitute, and the police will come and arrest him. And she just goes on to the next guy who then get arrested. It's set up to put men behind bars. That's the whole point of it. Because if it was to stop it, they would arrest the prostitutes too. But they don't. So that's what that is about.
People don't realize, like, nobody like actively chooses to be in sex work. You're usually going to sex work because of social situations.
Hold it, stop that. Did he say nobody actually chooses to be a sex worker?
Complete bullshit.
Yeah, he said it very quietly, but that's just not true. Women choose that work all the time. They even admit so, right? Matter of fact, you know yourself that TikTok is full of them.
Exactly. Like, women will see other women like making so much money, pretty much not even having sex with them, just like, or not even posting full-on nudes. Like, in a lot of cases, don't ask me how I know this. Like with OnlyFans and stuff, celebrities will just straight up sell like only like bikini pics or just slightly risque pics that will probably be allowed on any social media platform. Like, women see this easy money and
Yeah,
they'll go after it.
yeah, it is easy money. Yeah, exactly.
And
Prostitution. Go ahead.
he's gonna like the conversation that will follow. We'll talk about. He's gonna frame it in a way that's, oh, these poor women are being forced into sex work because there's nothing else for them.
Yeah.
When in reality they choose it because it is easy money, and a lot of these people aren't poor, as I said, like straight up like celebrities. It's like, for example, there's this pro wrestler woman named Mandy Rose who.
Yes.
Sorry, something started playing on my phone.
Okay.
There's this pro wrestler woman named Mandy Rose who started selling her risky pics online. She actually got fired from the WWE from this because they're like a PG, child-friendly product, and of course, someone participating in sex work goes against that brand.
Oh yeah.
And she just supports herself by like doing like selling those risky pics, and she was already rich beforehand because she was this big time pro wrestler.
Oh yeah. Yeah, her wrestling gig would actually come secondary to like the typical prostitution. In fact, the standard relationship between men and women is one of prostitution. So it just what form it takes. That's it. You know.
Most people ask why I joined the military. It's like because I was poor. Like, There's no other fucking reason. And I'm not saying it would get rid of exploitation, but if women have legal protections, like if I was a prostitute and I could go up to a cop and say, hey, I got beat up and my money stolen, not be worried about being arrested, like I would be more likely to report crime and get the people who aren't.
Yeah, and then for the people who just want to do it and want to just like own their sexuality, own their body, and use it as a commodity, a way to make money, they should be able to do that in a way that is safe, in a way that they own all of the videos, all of the content that they make, and in a way that is equitable for them.
When it comes to respect, there's two definitions. Respect either can mean like politeness, like you wouldn't shut the door on somebody that's like walking behind you, like be respectful. The other respect is usually if you do something that in the workplace that garners approval, you've completed a goal. So when we talk about respect when it comes to sex workers, should we be polite to them? Probably. That would be a human thing to do. I don't have to, but yeah, I prefer OnlyFans over the traditional porn industry.
Yeah, because you own it, and then it's
women
a lot
got
more
sex trafficked.
But that agency is important to know that it's what you own, and to have that respect put onto you that like this is your content you're putting out into the world.
Yeah, now it's their copyrighted material. Before, when it was the old porn industry, they didn't have rights to those videos, and that's a huge thing. Like if I want to take my
stop it right here. That makes perfect sense in the way that record labels are the same way. You might be the artist, but there's a whole industry that puts records out. So they're going to get the lion's share. I mean, that's just standard for any industry. So, I mean, they're trying to make the industry look bad, but it's no worse than any other industry that tries to suck the whatever they can out of their performers. This pornography, industry, for example, the women still get paid, right? But the OnlyFans and that, they're obviously making much more direct money. What they're doing is they're cutting out the middleman. So I can say why the women would prefer that. It's definitely a better deal.
With a copyright case, and it just
that's what happened with Mia Khalifa. Mm-hmm. That was her whole thing, and luckily now she has a very successful career doing like sports commentating and stuff. But unfortunately that's not the rule. That's the exception.
But it's a role model.
Speaking on Mia Khalifa stuff, it's funny how Mia Khalifa, anyone who knows about her, like will notice that she, even though she speaks about being ashamed of her past in adult films, she still keeps the name she used in the adult film industry.
Yeah, because that's her status. Exactly.
Right off the bat, you said Mia Khalifa went from being a porn star to being a sports commentator. That is something that we should be directing women towards. It shouldn't be, okay, well, she's going to go do an OnlyFans or she's going to be in 50 porn videos to get paid. When we're encouraging women to go out of their way to sell their bodies on the internet, because that's a means
Stop it right there.
End.
Hold it. No one's pressuring women to do that. I guarantee you, OnlyFans and TikToks, that is women going after the brass ring themselves. No one's giving them any pressure. Who knows? Maybe this woman here, what's her, Kaylee or whatever, does the same thing. It's easy. It's easy money. Like that's just the way of it. But of course, they're trying to make it that women mustn't be inherently ashamed of selling sex to men somehow, because it's obviously very positive, and yet they view it as in a negative light. They don't want to just come out and say, yeah, I love selling my body for money because it's such an easy gig and I make good money off it. They always want to try to make themselves out being forced or pressured into it. That really sickens me.
Right way, and I don't think the feminist movement should be moving in the direction of normalizing sex work, when we should be encouraging women to value themselves, value their body,
hold it
their
right here. Simeon, she's trying to also blame the feminist. They're sex positive feminist and your sex negative feminist. So a good chunk of them don't want women to deal with pornography at all. But even the sex positive ones still don't like men and still don't like the idea of men enjoying pornography.
Exactly. And honestly, nowadays, especially with the younger generation, well, my generation, I'm guessing slightly younger people as well, feminism is becoming more sex negative now,
Yes.
especially since radfems and radfem ideology are becoming more popular,
Yeah, exactly.
which is dangerous because radfems are more outwardly hostile to men, but at the same time, radfems are pretty much just the most honest version of feminists.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of it was from the past where before the contraceptive pill, the women had this biological holdback. And when the pill came and they gained sexual freedom, there was this boost to go and really enjoy, kick their heels up and enjoy that. But now it's take it for granted. Now their whole position is just to keep men from enjoying it in any way. That's what it is.
Where there's a lot of things in place though for women. Like, yeah, there's obviously a need if they're in maybe a lower economic class or something, but at the end of the day, that's more of like a morality topic, you know? And so you can't really force that on everybody. I agree with you.
Right. The other thing would be is that women are not happy when they're doing this. It's not empowering as a woman. You can go on Twitter and see these women who are in their 30s.
Nonsense.
With
Stop this. Stop just a minute, dude. Simeon. This woman's full of shit. These women are, of course, they're happy doing it. If they weren't, the TikTokers and OnlyFans, if they weren't happy doing it, they wouldn't do it. There's not one thing that forces them to do this. This woman is just telling a bold-faced lie. They love doing it. They love the attention. They love the free money. And they love getting their bills paid. She's just wrong. She's either lying or wrong or both. Continue.
No husband, no specific thing to actually care about. It's all about materialistic things. These are the same women that you're seeing tweeting about how sad they are. They're tweeting about how it's not generalized. It's the majority of those women. They are on antidepressants.
I like this because I've actually been in the industry. So I was trafficked for a decade.
Stop
you
right
hit the
there.
nail.
Just a minute, Simeon. This woman was not trafficked. Or if it is trafficked, the word trafficked has been watered down like so many other words. When someone hears the word trafficked, we think a woman was like snatched off the street and bodily transported against her will to then engage in sex acts. That's not what happened to this woman. This woman probably came from a poor area and she either had to get a crummy job or sell her body, and she just found it easier to sell her body. That's not sex trafficking, you know. Or if it was trafficking, she was the one doing it. She's trying to sound again like there's this group of men out there that made her do this, which is false. Continue, please.
Ahead. I came from a very poor socioeconomic background. I was a product of the state. And so I speak from experience when I say it's not empowering, it's not glorifying, it's not owning your body. None of that stuff is true. No little girl, when they're 4 or 5, says, I want to grow up and be a hooker. OnlyFans is the biggest pimp of them all. They're still taking 20%, and your content still gets leaked a lot.
I agree. I'm not in favor of any kind of exploitation. I also am uncomfortable by the idea of like women I know if they were in that industry. Like I admit, like it makes me feel uncomfortable. My gut instinct.
So you have a dog.
Why does it make you uncomfortable?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Like we could theorize reasons, but why?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be having a daughter in 4 months.
Just go back to the daughter.
Well, I mean, it's a good because you're raising a human being for the future of society that we're going to all shape. How does it make you feel to raise a daughter in a world where you can either preserve, you can either preserve her innocence, or you can step away and let her do the OnlyFans
How about
thing.
respect
It's a great
femininity?
question, and there's
Femininity over
two truths.
feminism.
There's
Oh,
two
by,
truths.
by the
that
way,
I-
Simeon right here, she's saying all this. Meantime, Kaylee is representing herself as sexually attractive as she can to the opposite sex. She's got the long hair and the short skirt and the makeup on. Like, come on. Like, her daughter's going to do whatever she does. And like I said, the standard relationship between men and women is one of prostitution anyway. Like I said, it's just the form it's taking. So what she's arguing against is the possible choice of the form of prostitution that her daughter might take. Her form, she mentioned a husband, right? So that's her form of prostitution. She wants a husband to do the hard lifting, heavy lifting for her, and she wants that for her daughter. But to truth be told, the TikTokers are very happy doing what they're doing. So I mean, you can't argue that. These women only look at what they personally like and then want it for every other woman. You know, I like vanilla, so obviously no one can like chocolate. You know, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Continue, sir.
One is I would be very uncomfortable if any female relative was, or person that I love, was exploring that profession. Like I would have.
You can't even say it.
I'm trying to be as
But as a
as like
father
professional as I can.
specifically,
Yeah,
'cause
as a
it
father
shows that you
specifically.
fail.
No,
No?
I don't think that I would fail. I would have complex feelings to navigate.
Yeah.
On a higher level, I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with that profession, and I respect people who do it in a way that's fulfilling to them and that brings them happiness. If someone's doing that job and it doesn't bring them joy, obviously I would not.
But most of the
But
women
But you have to
are doing it
understand it's
aren't
not bringing
fulfilled.
value or happiness.
Most of the women who are doing, especially OnlyFans, are doing it of their own volition. Because as
Yeah.
I said, it's the money.
And they are far happier doing that than working a job. Far happier. And also notice this guy, as a father, said I had complex feelings. And he said on a higher ideal, there's nothing wrong with it. But his instinctive, his gut hates it though. You know what? He hates the idea of his daughter being banged by guys because men are anti-male. They're hostile to other men. There's really nothing wrong going on here. It's just people having sex. But people do not like the idea of a woman giving up sex to a man because they don't like the men. It doesn't get any simpler than that.
And going off topic a little bit, when I remember a video you made about this woman who talked about having sex with almost 1,000 men, and just the visceral disgust
Oh yeah.
by mainly other men. And I think was it a shield for men throughout this point was that men being mad at women for having sex with men is anti-male because it implies that men having sex with women ruins women in a way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just the whole point. It's like, oh no, you're so perfect. A man's idea of the perfect woman is she's never been touched by a grimy man other than himself. And you know, so that's what and the woman who said that probably didn't really do 1,000 guys. She just tweeted that to piss guys off, and it worked so well. It got under their skin so badly. It's like, look, do you know this woman? Is she your girlfriend? No. Then why would you damn well care? Because I'll tell you why they care. They hate other men. They hate the idea of a woman getting reamed over. They consider her ruined by those dirty subhumans.
I want to make a distinction. I'm just trying not to wrap it all into one bundle because there's going to be exceptions. I think you just want to be careful of like putting a negative label over like so many people's lives.
I think should be negative though, so that young daughters don't run to her. And why don't we have more respect
them
for
enough
femininity
to love them,
versus
direct them in a
respect for
different
sex work?
Men should take birth control.
As if male
Oh,
birth control.
just a minute. Could you
actually-
just pause just for a minute to Simeon, just for a second. Yeah, continue, please. Sorry.
As, like as I said, as if men's birth control exists. It doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Question is an interesting one. What these people will say is just just anger-inducing yet confusing at the same time.
Yeah. It's
Just
not
wait.
should take birth control. Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead. You started it. Do it.
Well, male birth control does exist. The problem is there hasn't been a lot of funding into making it commercially available. It's about making it an equal responsibility all around. Especially if there's a more effective way, like a pill. They can't just whine about the side effects when they
Pause the recording.
Yeah. Okay. Just a minute. All right. Continue, Simeon.
This is a bold-faced lie.
Yes.
Men's birth control is not available. It is being worked on,
Yes, exactly.
but it's not available. And frankly, the fact that it's been 60 years since women's birth control has been developed, yet we don't have the equivalent for men yet. It's just further proof that society is anti-male.
Oh, yeah. It's absolutely shameful. And just the way they place it, this question suggests that men would refuse taking something that actually helps us out. Like, come on. Men would love to have a birth control pill because all of a sudden, know what would happen? The child support racket would fall inward. It would fall apart. No woman wants a man to have control over sexual ability to produce children. She doesn't want that. The average woman doesn't. Forget about feminists or tradcons. The average woman does not want that for men. It's that simple. They're going to try and paint it like men are refusing.
Increase a woman's quality of life when she's dealing with all this.
Her chance of fertility, her chances of. I've never been on birth control, and I don't believe in taking it. I don't believe in putting anything like that alters my body. I'm not saying either party should have it because personally, I don't think that anyone should put that stuff in their body. But if one's going to do it, and then the other one should have the option of doing it.
Yeah, if we're in a world where women have the access to it and men have the access to it, should is just such a strong word.
It's so strong.
Make the choice for your own body. That's why I didn't walk forward. But yeah, if you both have the option.
If men had the right to birth control, then they would ultimately be coinciding and deciding if a child should come to life. Right now, women ultimately have that decision, no matter what you say.
Realized Janelle actually answered the question for us at the beginning when she admitted she doesn't take birth control. So if women shouldn't be forced to take birth control, then men shouldn't. That's the answer to the question, right? Continue, sir.
She gets to decide if she goes through with it or not. And I think that's kind of problematic for many reasons. But
It goes back to why I stepped forward with the military draft. Everyone needs to take responsibility for people's sexual and reproductive health.
But are you saying that because you know that women would want a guy to take birth control? That's more of like you want to please the feminists?
Please myself.
That's what I'm saying.
That's a lie. She knows that women wouldn't want men to take the pill. She's trying to make it sound like, oh, women want men to take this pill and men are just being irresponsible. No, I mean, how would women, again, force men to pay child support if all of a sudden men weren't giving birth to children anymore, right? Or causing them to be birthed, right? This is nonsense. That would take privileges and power out of women's hands. They're not going to advocate for it. It's that simple.
I'm saying male feminists have a tendency to have the talking points and they're like, women want us to take the birth control, so I guess we will, but do you actually think that you would?
Why wouldn't I?
Why don't you get a vasectomy?
I did.
Did you?
I have
feminists always bring up the vasectomy.
Yeah, it's like,
But I
what,
think
what would be easier, invasive surgery or just popping a pill? I mean, he may as well flip that question back on her. I said, why don't you get your tubes tied? Why bother if you hate taking the contraceptive pill, lady? Why don't you just get your tubes tied? That's all you need. Yeah.
an interesting case that happened was that when the Roe v. Wade stuff was happening down here last year, an actual lawmaker in Oklahoma proposed a bill saying that men should get vasectomies as soon as they hit puberty.
Oh yeah, like take them. Well, why not? They're already cutting them when they're infants, right? They're already circumcising them, and cutting them because women like that. I mean, that would just be taking it one step further, wouldn't it? I mean, it's the same old attack children, you know.
Exactly, because it's like as soon as the so-called rights of women are perceived to be attacked, they go after. They not only go after men, but they go after little boys.
Oh yeah.
And people will point out that the person who wrote the bill wasn't like seriously proposing it. It was just a statement of protest. But at the same time, why was that his first idea of protesting? The whole Roe v. Wade being overturned,
Exactly.
attacking little boys.
Yeah. Not to mention the whole reason the Roe v. Wade was overturned in the first place was because a group of women wanted it. That whole struggle was a struggle between two groups of women. Men didn't even have a voice in that. So this has nothing to do with men or patriarchy again.
And it's just telling, like feminist anti-male sentiment always comes out when the whole abortion debate comes up in the US, because abortion is always painted as, oh, men are trying to control women's bodies, when in reality there are a lot of women who oppose abortion. And you'll go to these like conservative anti-abortion rallies and there are so many women there, and yet you'll see feminists and pro-abortion people gaslight people into thinking it's something that men are trying to impose upon women.
Exactly. And Mr. Pink and Yellow pointed out in one of his videos that it's not your body. I mean, you are involving another person, So, I mean, but that's the abortion debate. We don't need to get into that anyway.
So there you go. All right.
I decided to get a vasectomy because I wanted to play a very small part in having men take more responsibility for their sexual and reproductive health.
Hold it right here. Why, Simeon, why didn't you just wear condoms? If that's what his worry is, right? So for someone to come up and tell him to get a vasectomy and him to do it, it was an exercise in dominance over his body. It was controlling his body. Because again, if he wanted to be responsible, he just wear condoms, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or a sperm cell lube.
Yeah, there's that too, right? So
vasectomies and the procedure, it seemed like a no-brainer for me to get it. I've known for a few years that I didn't want children, and so I'd been thinking about getting a vasectomy. And then Roe v. Wade got overruled, and I just looked into it and I started doing more research on it. And free of insurance, no side effects. It's an outpatient procedure, so you go in 20 minutes, you're out. I went to work the next day. You should not take it if you have any inkling of a doubt about not wanting biological children, because it's not 100% reversible.
But in some cases they do it. Yeah.
Right. It's preposterous to me that it's only about 5 to 6% of men in the U.S. have a vasectomy, because definitely more than 5 to 6% of men in the U.S. don't want to have children.
Kids. That's correct.
Yeah,
because it's like condom,
with hormones. I know.
vasectomy. There is no there's no middle ground between the two.
Exactly.
And I think
So why not
of-
have the pill, right? That's just an argument for the male pill, yeah. Yeah. Oh, go continue, yeah.
patriarchy. I know you hate me using that word, but like I think it's because we
like
prioritize.
Daniel said. Listen, we have advanced so much. You don't think they could come up with a pill at this point? Think about
They
it.
come up with one. It's
It's
not
just that
commercial.
there's not a market for it.
Daniel said
False. Stop. It is a market for it. Men would buy that, no problem. They put it on the shelves tomorrow. Men would be sweeping it off the shelves. It's that simple. That's a bold-faced lie on his part. Continue.
I want to hear from the disagreeers.
One thing that I do agree with is the fact that birth control has a lot of side effects. And if I'm not going to take that, and a lot of people aren't going to take that and have the side effects, then I don't think men should have to either. I think we live in an over-sexualized society where we're trying to, yes, find ways to solve this issue because you cannot stop everybody from doing it. Why not preserve and protect yourself and not go around and sleep with everybody?
But that is
There's a
messages
very
very
small minority.
small group of
Right.
people that believe that,
That
mostly in
might-
the faith-based
Right.
communities. But
You know,
as far
that's
as
your right to,
Right.
to be able to do that and make that decision, and
Right.
you know, we totally.
I just don't think
totally
it's ever
respect
going to get.
I don't
like,
think it should be like imposed on everybody.
I'm not for male birth control by force. If somebody wants to take that, yes, but I think there needs to be more comprehensive research and stuff. Female birth control is a little sketchy at times because there have been incidences where they had to recall stuff because they kind of
Multiple times, yeah.
I think one of them was like the old Yaz. They had to recall
Yeah.
it because it was causing like blood clots or something.
Yeah,
Like,
that's very
most
common.
birth
I mean, he's
controls
making an
cause-
excuse here. I mean, there's been recalls. So what? The overall effect is that it works very well. Female contraceptive, the contraceptive pill for women works very well. We've had generations of women using it, and it works. So there's nothing to say about that. Like, yes, because the male pill will be so new, it'll have more problems at the beginning, but they'll iron those out. Continues.
to a place where we're not using things where hormones, because the other thing is a lot of people get blood tests to check their hormones on a regular basis. And actually, technically, female birth control is an oral steroid.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. It's actually a 19 norm. And like people are taking steroids.
I think we're going to find out decades from now how harmful this actually
has
is, probably
and-
for both sexes.
And like
Unfortunately, like the pharmaceutical industry is so based on profit that like if they think men aren't going to take male birth control, they're not going to put in the research. They're not.
They are researching it, and there is a demand for male birth control.
Yes, exactly. He's, of course, building another lie. There's no way that men don't want this. Right.
Like considering that condoms, as you mentioned earlier, ruin sex.
Exactly. Men would jump at the chance. They said, oh, wow. I mean, there's still disease to worry about, but I mean, the main worry men have is an unwanted pregnancy and then their enslavement. So they would go for that. They would love that.
Not going to create it. They're not going to invest in it. So if we socialize and say, hey, like this is a responsibility men should also have, then we can get research into all birth control to make it safer and more effective for everyone, so that we don't have, not everyone has to be experiencing these horrible side effects.
A mother is the most valuable thing a woman can do.
Yeah, the trad cons would be for it.
I'm almost, I am a mother, but she'll be born later. When you choose to have a kid, you're putting aside not necessarily what you want to do in the future, because I believe that women have every opportunity to still pursue what they want to do, even becoming a mother. It's
I disagree with this. Simeon, I disagree with this. There's no way someone with children is going to have the same free time and availability as someone who's single or without children, at least. That's a simple fact. So she's wrong about that. Okay, go ahead.
To be that selfless, to bring a human being into the world,
and give everything to them and watch them grow up and become their own person, and to feel that love unconditionally that something materialistic will never give you.
Yeah. I honestly don't remember my life before my son. And it really makes me sad today that more women, 10 years, more women in the United States will be opting out of marriage, out of children. That just is insane to me. It's innately in us to nurture and to love and to care and to create life. We literally give birth. It's
Okay.
an ability, a gift.
Let's
and
stop
it's
it here. For
also-
one thing, women do not create life, they incubate it. You know, if they could create life, they wouldn't need a man's seed for it, for one thing. And
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. And also, she's trying to make women sound like this is their nature, they're nurturing. We have the PMC know better now. We have a channel devoted to women harming children. Like that's the title of the channel. And it's just one thing, one case after another of some woman who's abandoned her child, abused her child, murdered her child. You know, this is just propaganda that we've been fed, not just our whole lives, but throughout history. You know, and the birth rates dropped as soon as the nuclear age came around. Just as soon as any civilization becomes very safe and very mechanized and easy, the women choose not to have a lot of children. That's just a simple fact. You see it, the trend in every country. So this idea that women want children badly, that's just false.
And the other thing, there's always this weird erasure of fathers, even in the
Yeah.
role of Korean children. Like, people always say, well, women have the gift of creating life, when no, it's literally a two-person job. Like, without man, there is no life, because life requires both a sperm and an egg. And there's this weird research into like fertilizing eggs without sperm that's been like spearheaded by feminists as this way of them saying, oh, we don't need men, women can like fertilize their own eggs now.
Yeah. Exactly.
But like this research is just again trying to erase men. There seems to be an active effort to like play down fathers in society and like villainize fathers. Like parental alienation is framed as like the father just up and leaving like a deadbeat.
Yes. The deadbeat dad is a myth. It's if there's most of the time, if not all the time, it's the woman just kicking him out of the family unit. It's that simple. The woman doesn't want him there. The legal system, you know, enforces it. You know, that's the way it really works. Also, when they do want to brag up fathers, it's only because the children are suffering, not because the man loves children and should be around children, right? And he's only discussed as a servant. He's an important servant to the woman. It's the woman, not the children, that they can care about, right? So that's his role. You are a servant, so this woman can have children and have an easy time of it. It has nothing to do with the man's enjoyment of life whatsoever. Okay. Continue, sir.
Which is required. It's a massive responsibility to raise a child, knowing that, as someone said earlier, your children are going to be the future of our planet. Wow,
Okay, I want to hear more from the disappears.
We're running the moms through the dirt. That's what I heard.
I think it's going to be the most valuable thing that I do in life to children and create a family. It's just such a subjective thing. And there's so many things that people contribute to the world. And for, I think, most women, when they leave this earth sitting on the deathbed, they probably will think the most powerful and valuable thing they've ever done is to create children. There's like the famous quote, the greatest two things that you can leave on this earth when you die is art and children. And I think a lot of people are going to feel that way. I just don't want to subscribe value to somebody who doesn't see that as
Yeah, or somebody who can't have kids or just chooses not to.
Right.
You know, there's
Gonna
other ways to achieve greatness. But being a mom is a great thing. I think we all being a good mom. Does anyone
being a good mom. Yes.
Yeah, a good mom. There's a lot of people who are moms. Not everybody's a good mom.
I was raised by a single mom. On top of that, I was also adopted. So my birth mother had to make an incredibly difficult choice to decide not to pursue raising this child. And then my mother, who as a single mom raised me and raised my siblings. The thing is she was also like a teacher and a professor.
Hold it there,
principal.
Simeon. Mason's proving our point earlier. He was adopted. In other words, his birth mother was free to abandon him, and she didn't have to pay a cent. She didn't have to pay any child support. Notice there's no deadbeat moms. All these women can abandon their children, and they're not considered deadbeats. So they carry these children, they bring them into the world, then it's somebody else's problem. But there's no deadbeat moms, right? Right. So he was adopted. Go ahead.
Feminism really should be about and is making it so that women, if they choose to be a mother and just do that for their entire life, they get as much respect and value and everything that they should be afforded as someone who decides to be a billionaire CEO as a woman.
Feminist movement is teaching women that it's the worst thing you could possibly do because you're gonna lose your money and you're gonna.
And I think sometimes some people live in echo chambers, and that might be a problem. But like, also, here's the other thing: are women not having children because it's economically difficult? Because in America, it's really hard to have a kid. It's really expensive. We don't have health care. We don't.
You're fine, but not everyone.
I know,
is
but
fine.
I'm saying
like,
that what
me and my
the act of
girlfriend,
having a kid takes two people.
Yes, but me and my girlfriend, we could probably afford a kid, but we right now it's probably not good.
And you're making that decision.
But here's the other thing: not everybody has that decision to make, and it's actually economically really hard to have a kid in this country. Somebody's gonna have to stop working. Somebody's gonna have to make less money. There's not healthcare.
When I had my son, I had no means. I had been trafficked, obviously. I made the decision to see it as life and to have the child. And I had the child. I was homeless in Newport Beach 8 years ago.
Oh,
When my son-
by the way, here's Simeon. Again, if she was trafficked, she couldn't decide to have a child. If someone was actually in control of her, they would say, no, you're about having sex. Get rid of the child. That's what would go on there. So this is all her decision making right here. Continue, sir.
Worked around the clock and didn't stop until he was almost 5 years old, until I got my degree.
Who handles child?
And the county pays for it. That's why I'm trying to say we do have resources. I was a full-time student.
Exactly, like single mothers are supported by the state.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a lot of people talk about being a single mother is so hard. There's no support. When single mothers are supported by the state, they have I know this, as a child from a single mother home, I've seen it with my own eyes. Plus there's a child support racket, which a lot of these mothers get. There's, especially in other countries with better social programs devoted to welfare and stuff.
Hey, can your mother get welfare and child support? I forget now.
Yes, you can.
So it's a double whammy. By rights, if you're getting child support, you shouldn't be getting welfare, or vice versa. But women get double.
Exactly.
What's that?
Exactly. There are people who end up getting child support and are able to get food stamps, so food costs aren't an issue. And the reality is, with a lot of child support, it doesn't even a lot of mothers who get child support don't use it to benefit the child. They just use it for their own purposes. It's literally just free money for the woman.
Exactly, because the child support is all about punishing the man first and benefiting the women secondly. That's it. It has nothing to do with children at all.
And because
that's not everywhere.
California is one of the more
every
if you're a
county
single
and see
mom,
which counties offer it.
California is one of the more exceptional.
So I do think there's resources if you look for them. And I don't think that just saying, oh, it's expensive to have a kid. Like,
Woe is me. I can't have a kid because I'm too poor. No, we live in a country where, like I said earlier, we have the opportunities to pursue what we can and what we want to do. And I don't think the feminist movement has any place to tell someone that they're too dumb or too poor to be able to have a kid.
Oh, absolutely not.
The feminist movement does not say that. Like,
No, at all.
feminist movement's just about attacking men. Like, a lot of tracons will falsely say that the feminist movement like brings down women. No, it's all about attacking men. It's all about promoting hatred and sometimes even violence towards men. Like, the feminist movement is literally just a hate movement against men.
Yeah, that's it. That's it in a nutshell. Everything else is secondary or doesn't exist at all. That is their prime purpose.
But that is what the feminist movement is doing.
I agree. Yeah, maybe it's not as cool or fashionable to become a parent. Maybe like that's not what people are valuing. Feminism to me, and I think to the other guys here, is just like viewing the sexes equally and feeling like they should have equal opportunity. I don't think it expands much beyond that. No one here is saying it's not cool to be a mom, or women shouldn't aspire to be a mom if that's going to be fulfilling to them. If that's like your path, by all means, I think you should do it. My wife was very specific and like direct with me when we started dating. She's like, I want to have kids. This is important.
Hold on. Here's another thing, Simon. If they were really about equality, of course we know that they're not, but if they were, they would be pushing for single fathers too. They would saying, hey, why would you get married? Why would you get a woman? Why don't you just adopt a child? Be a single dad. Hey, you don't need to follow the same old rules and the same old gender roles just to get a kid. And you know something? The child is not as expensive as people make it out. It's the wife that's expensive. She's the one. You can feed and clothe a child very cheaply. It's the woman who's expensive. Anyway. Continue, sir.
That was a goal that we set for ourselves. But she's not just a mom. You know, there's other things. She has other ambitions, and she can do both of those things. And I think we all feel that that's possible. So when I hear you say, you know, like feminism is saying that like moms can't do this or don't be a mom, I'm not sharing that experience of
Well,
that.
that's good. We don't shame motherhood. Like, our side, we promote it a lot of the times, but whenever you hear the opposite thing, it's usually from the feminists.
Men need to be masculine to keep their families safe.
And of course,
Yeah.
yep. Yeah, I was about to say this. Like, this is where all the tracons come out and just show their true colors. By the way, I apologize if there's any echoing on my front.
Of course.
Like, if there is any echoing, I apologize. This is our legit first meet. In the future, things will be better quality.
Okay. But this is what masculine just means good servant. So when they say, do men need to be masculine to keep family safe? What they mean is, are men going to be good servant to the women? Because that's what they mean by families too.
Of course he does. Look at I think there's a reason why people love Andrew Tate. And whatever you think about him in regards to what he's being accused of, which he has not been proven, but that's neither here nor there, men gravitated toward that. Why? Because he spoke to men in a sense of being a man, being a protector, and you have to be in charge of all your faculties and think more critically.
This is false. Andrew Tate came up by flaunting his luxurious high status lifestyle and using it to like draw in his audience of mainly teenage boys and young men who are pressured to wanting high status to attract women.
Yeah.
And Andrew Tate got big by saying, hey guys, you can become high status to attract women as well. And he uses his cartoonish persona to add to his brand.
Yeah, exactly.
Aspects of masculinity appeal to men because men want to innately protect. If I go on a date and you take me on a date and he's like, no, I wouldn't, but that's okay. And you take me to a dinner and you don't sit facing the door, I'm never going out on another date with you. It's not like we're helpless, like, can't do anything, but having a man stand by you, protect you. And
Told you, servant. This is servitude. She's saying, I want you to be a good servant.
Exactly. Like, as women genuinely didn't care, genuinely cared, not didn't care what they don't care, of course, but if women genuinely cared about men, like, they wouldn't, like, require all this weird shit, like sitting close to the door or walking by the street when walking on a sidewalk. Like, they wouldn't want their men to be in danger if they actually cared.
Yeah. But it's all not even danger because she knows she's not going to be danger in a restaurant or on the sidewalk. It's just saying I want you to signal to me that you are beneath me, that you are the servant and I am the one being served. I mean, that's what a diamond engagement ring is all about. When women get married to a man, prove to me that diamond ring is a proof that you're going to waste all your money on me. And if it's something that I want, but let's face it, doesn't benefit us both or is useless, if it's just, eye candy, that's what you do. It's the ultimate in servitude. It's a signal for servitude. Continue, sir.
And it's just funny because like, so many people say that women are the more romantic gender when, in all honesty, all they do is like dream about being the recipient of these grand acts of love, which is mainly just being giving material stuff or just these acts of service.
Yeah.
Like, women are called romantic just for dreaming about men doing stuff for them or giving stuff to them.
Yeah. Men are the true romantics because our dreams are the woman just being there for us. That's why maybe the closest thing is maybe what she wears makes her more enticing or something like that. That's the most materialistic we'll ever get. She just has to be there and say, I want to be with you. And that's our idea of romance. That's true romance.
Masculinity is very important.
There are situations, like, for example, like, 230 pounds, my girlfriend's like 110, 5'2". Like, there's no way if somebody breaks in a house that she's gonna fight them off unless she has a gun on her or something. But so in that situation, I would fill that masculine role. But like anybody can be strong. Like in a situation where I'm not there, I would hope if we had kids, she could protect them and defend them like the best she could. Or I get the issue with like, oh, men need to be masculine. It's like, oh, men need to always go work and bring the money and all this stuff. Because my girlfriend, she's highly educated. She actually makes way more money than I do. Like way more. I work as a personal trainer. I don't make as much as she does. It is traditionally not very masculine for a woman to make more money than a man. And I know some people, they will be like, oh, you're not a real man if your woman makes more money than you. That's pathetic. Why is she with you? You sound like a loser. Things like that. And I don't let that define my masculinity.
That's because women I tell them this because women want high status men. Like,
oh yeah. It's hard for some reason. Everyone else comes in pretty clear, but I don't know if he's a low talker or his mic doesn't work as well. But he comes off as very quiet. I have a hard time hearing him. But
as someone who's naturally a low talker,
yeah.
I'm assuming he's a low talker.
Yeah. So he said his wife makes more money than him, Simeon? Did he say that?
I can't recall. Let me go
No,
back.
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just go.
I feel like we're getting a society where that's less of a problem. And like some people might disagree with this, and like, but it's just my opinion. I think to raise a son, it's easier if you're a man. It doesn't have to be a father. It could be an uncle or some positive role model. Same thing with a positive female role model. Because like, I don't know what it's like to be like female going through puberty, but I was a young man. Right now, a lot of our young men are misguided. A lot of them are making bad decisions, and it's because like a lot of these young men get this testosterone boost, their brains aren't fully developed, and they like the vast majority of crimes are committed by 16 to 23-year-olds.
The reason I walk forward is about exactly what you just said. Men have these feelings and this aggression often deep inside them, and it's about using that aggression or those feelings that you have to protect rather than to inflict.
I guess I'm just not entirely sure what, like, just masculinity in general has to do with keeping people safe.
Could I quickly respond? And that
Yeah.
I just think it's that men have that natural propensity towards it. If I think of roles in society that are protectors, we could say police officers, anybody who's going to take on that role of physical aggression in order to stop that situation from happening. Men tend to take those roles.
Because they're often pressured to, because their lives aren't considered worth as much as women are.
Exactly.
And if you just look at the demographics of those roles in particular, men choose to take that on and they persevere and drive for it.
Let's say I get married to a guy and he wants to be a stay-at-home dad. That's fine. I enjoy working. So I actually wouldn't be totally opposed to me grabbing the gun if an intruder came in and being the one to kill somebody, if my husband's normally like the one protecting the kids, I guess. I don't think it necessarily matters who's protecting the family, just somebody must.
I like what you said.
Wait, stop right here, Simeon. We know that that's false. If there was a home invasion and her husband ducked underneath the couch and she had to do the fighting, she would divorce him the next day. That's a fact.
She's just saying this to look good, like.
Yeah.
And pivoting and getting kind of away from the topic, we've seen this multiple times. I've experienced this, but when men are vulnerable towards women, a lot of women will just lose respect for that man.
Yeah.
It just leads to the whole red pill type people telling men to not be emotionally vulnerable with women because of that unfortunate fact.
Yeah, they're actually right about that. Vulnerability in a man turns a woman off. It's that simple, and it is a fact.
I think she's better than me at like helping us avoid unsafe situations.
But to physically combat a stranger that's at your door with a gun, a mask on, and is breaking in.
Yeah, it's convenient to have someone who's more like him.
But would you send your wife who's intuitive to use her intuitive powers to handle that, to protect? Or would you use your masculine, my daughter's protected, I'm going down.
If we get attacked, I'm going to do everything I can to protect my family. That's not men having to be masculine. I just think that's people protecting those they love. I think when women are put in situations where they have to protect their families, they can exert tremendous force. Obviously, they're more vulnerable because they're not typically like as strong on average.
Testosterone, right?
But I just don't. I don't think like this is something men have to do. I think you gotta be careful about putting pressure on men to embody some sort of like macho, tough, violent.
I think it's macho.
I've had men in my life who like embody that tough role, and it like creates uncomfortable environments. It sometimes invites aggression, danger to the situation. It's a certain role playing that I think men actually is beneficial to grow out.
Why do you think it's a role though? What if that's just who they are?
Well, then I think they should go to therapy and work on it, or like play a sport and get out that and
So I understand
aggression isn't bad.
I always hear from other male feminists like, oh, that guy's trying to be a macho guy. Why?
Okay, well, so here's the thing. I think sometimes it's not genuine. He's playing a character. Actually, I'm usually the one to de-escalate situations because of how I look and how I am presented. So I de-escalate. And actually, I always tell people I always encourage young men to avoid the fight. If you can avoid it, stay away. But if you have to, obviously do what you have to do, like survive. And I would say to women or anything, but don't start and actually try to deter, get away. Violence should be always allowed. Violence only brings more violence.
Okay, what's the last one?
The difference between men and women should be celebrated.
Oh, okay. I don't know even. I can't say what they're going to say here. No, I will say the so-called anti-feminists, they're tracons. They'll definitely be for men being men and women being women. I'll say that.
Men and women should be celebrated.
I'm talking about poles of energy. We have polarity in everything in the universe, from the battery. You can't put two negatives into a battery and it work. You can't put two positives, has to go flop. So there's poles day and night, everything, yin, yang, it's energy, and we are energy.
I think everything's polar though.
It is, though.
Why apply one lens to
Well,
the
you
whole
just stepped
universe?
forward with the prompt that said that masculine
think-
men and women's
Well,
differences
well,
should be celebrated.
I want to celebrate the difference
So-
between men and women, but I feel like you have this tendency to apply sometimes like these quantum or
Because
like,
because we live in a
these
quantum
macro
universe of
ideas
masculine
to
and feminine
everything.
energy.
And you
It
guys
just
do
doesn't
the
have to
same
be-
thing too, though. You
I think he's just saying to celebrate differences doesn't mean we exist on two opposite poles.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah, and I
we've spent our
I'm saying that. So I'm
like,
saying that.
there's things exist in nature that are triangles or triads. Like not everything is yin and yang. You know?
But
It's
it
just-
kind of is. I actually
Well-
believe that the masculine energy is a little bit elevated in a sense that they have more responsibility as protector, provider. And so for women, we like lean to them and we look up to them as the leader. So not
Bullshit.
Yeah. Do you want to bother with this last? I don't think this last one is really that important, eh? Or did you want to listen to the rest of it? I suppose it's only
Yeah.
3 minutes. It's up to you.
Honestly, no, because this topic right here
Yeah.
doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of
No,
things.
it doesn't. I agree. Well, I'll tell you,
But I will say
Go ahead. Sorry.
that this whole quote unquote debate here, if any debate there has been, is mainly between like left wing feminists and right wing feminists.
Yes.
Not necessarily feminists versus anti feminists. This is more of a political debate than a debate on feminism.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's
There wasn't really any talk about it other than like no one disagreed with the idea of feminism at all. So it had nothing to do with it. And it was, are men falling behind? Right. And there was only one section, even that didn't have much about that. They had a lot of other stuff mixed in there. Anyway, since this is the end of it, it's going to be pretty long. I think we're going at this for about 3 hours now. So, Simeon, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
No problem.
So I guess I'll stop recording here, and I think this will be an interesting one for people to listen to. Okay, I'm going to stop recording now.